Good afternoon. Today is Wednesday, November 15th. We are here for the regular Board of Trustees meeting. Ms. Kraft, can you please call the roll?
Mrs. Faust.
Here.
Ms. Knapp. Mr. Ringgold.
Here.
Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic that stands one nation, indivisible, with justice for all. I think flag's not right. Pledge out there.
Switch it up.
Okay. Do we have any public comment? Okay. Hearing none, we have a presentation from Trevelle Energy.
Thanks very much for having me. Thank you, Michelle, for setting this up. Just wanted to take this opportunity to introduce myself. My name is Erin Schmerschneider. I'm going to be your point of contact moving forward. As I had explained to Michelle the other day, Scott is no longer actively managing the day-to-day of the business. So I will be your point if you need anything energy related. There's also an individual named Ron who's going to be helping on the back end of things more operationally. So I'll make sure to distribute both of our contact information after that. I have cards with me now if anybody wants me to leave something behind now, but I can also coordinate through Michelle to make sure that information gets passed along accordingly. Right. So I wanted to take this opportunity to talk about a couple of things here. We have the current electric aggregation program that just is scheduled to start next month in December, and also talk about your natural gas. If you wouldn't mind going to the next slide, please. Thanks. So this current aggregation, electric aggregation program, as you know, is a significant reduction over the current price to compare, which has been very elevated in AEP utility area. We're currently at just over 10 cents. So at the 6.5 rate, significant savings over the price to compare for your residents. That will start seeing that beginning next month. Of the 8,635 households, so far we've only had 254 opt-outs. So that's a really, really high participation rate at 95%. That's much, much higher than other communities. And when AEP sends their letter out for switching, we might anticipate seeing a bit more of those come off. But even so, I mean, a very high participation rate. So very well received thus far. I believe the township has received a few calls. It sounds like some of them were not the most positive in terms of the quality of the letter that was sent out. I've made sure to pass that along to Archer Energy. They're the ones responsible, or whatever the selected supplier is, in this case it's Archer, responsible for mailing those out. So they'll be very happy to know, the quality of their print house is not up to snuff, and make sure that we'll get that change moving forward. Also making sure that anything else that goes out will be in color, including your logo. I don't think that happened this time around. However, on a positive note, Archer said they've received over 500 phone calls, and the majority of them have been very positive. They've had a lot of inquiries, just, what is the participation like? What do I need to do? Do I need to do anything? Pretty standard questions, but by and large, positive response. So that's, over 500 calls that the township hopefully has not had to field themselves. And sounds like some new messaging we put on this last letter that really called that out, of calling the supplier, calling Traybell, to make sure that, that burden is not landing here within the township. Obviously, everyone here is quite busy, so 500 calls can be fielded by the rest of us. Next slide, please. Thank you. And the gas aggregation program, so that's ongoing right now. You're currently at a rate of 749, and there's far less households in the township that have gas in their homes. They're primarily electric. So the available households is about a fourth of it is for electric. And of that, we're still seeing over 75% participation rate, which is very good too. Archer did not have the number of calls because the program was put into place in mid 2022. So we're going back kind of a way to find all those call logs. But as of now, they get very, very few calls for the gas program. I know there has been some discussion previously with Scott about, do we want to look at a gas extension now? Or do we want to wait until the spring? So these are just some indicative marks to be able to show where things are at today. there is an option of what is called a blend and extend. And essentially that takes your current rate, blends it with an extension, but provides you with a lower price today instead of having to wait until April when your contract is up. So you'll see that's the higher number here of 6,792, which is still reduction from the current price. And then if you were to wait till April, and that doesn't mean we have to wait to transact, but just wait for the new contract to start until April, that's going to be at a 6,289 rate. So a couple of questions, and this doesn't have to be decided today, but as I'm sure Scott has explained, the market changes every minute of every day. So this price today might not be reflective of the price tomorrow or in a month from now, et cetera. So I think a couple things to think about. Do you want to pass along greater savings sooner to your residents and do this blended price that will start more quickly? Or do we want to do just a straight extension? There is obviously a price difference between the two. So do you want to start saving more sooner or wait knowing that there's going to be that lower price? Both of these scenarios have been run to be coterminous with your electric program, so that next time around, it's just looking at everything at once instead of gas at one time, electric at another time. But that doesn't mean that we can't look at a different scenario too. So I think something just for the board to consider. And then if you wouldn't mind to go to the next slide, please, just talking a bit about timing. So traditionally, the more favorable times to transact have been in the fall and in the spring. I think that remains the case, although we've seen a lot more volatility over the past year. We saw Russia invade Ukraine that really threw gas prices skyrocketing, and we saw just a tremendous amount of volatility through that period of time. It has settled down a little bit, but now we're starting to see futures trade out with some of that more volatility as you're seeing additional conflict, with Palestine, Israel, and then also the weather component. So we have been fortunate to have an extended period of warmer than normal weather, which has kept prices down a bit. The fear of waiting is twofold, that once we start to get some weather coming in, plus the added volatility with conflict, now you're in a situation where maybe you don't have time to wait. I know in speaking with Michelle and Valerie, it sounds like there has been a history of you have to sign something right now or else. And we don't want that anymore. Would like to be a lot more proactive and let's think things through. Let's have a better cadence of reviewing things and making sure everybody feels comfortable in the decision making. So if we wait until spring and the scenario of the volatility occurs and you're kind of up against a wall if you have to make a decision, you always have that kind of factor put back into it. So I want to be mindful of not doing that. Obviously, the decision is yours, and I'm happy to answer any additional questions about the market, predictions. There's only so much that we can predict. If, everyone knew what the market was going to do, we'd all be very wealthy on an island somewhere, but we don't. So we can just make our best educated guess. But this graph here will show you historic settlements over the past, I want to say it's maybe a year and a half that we have in here. Since Jan of 2020. So you can really see that high spike in volatility following the invasion in December and then through the winter months. And we've really seen it come off quite a bit. And while it's increasing here over the past months, when you're looking back to Jan of 2020, we're at a very similar space. So overall, not a bad time to transact. And again, it's the cost of waiting. Do we want to do a wait and see? And then we might be in a spot where we have to make a very quick decision. Next slide, please. And then this is just a different type of look. This is from November of last year. So it gives you a year snapshot of what winter has been trading at. So you can see this time last year was trading much higher, still have a little bit of volatility over the past couple of months, but relatively low, all things considered. So I will leave it at that for the board to kind of think about. I can coordinate with Michelle about any follow-up questions, but happy to answer anything else right now, if there are questions for anyone. Sure, of course.
Determining between the blend and extend and extension.
Correct.
Looks like a difference in start time of 2 months.
That's right.
But it would save us $0.5 CCF.
That's right.
The average CCF for the home would be, say, just to try to figure out what is this $2? Is this?
Sure. Yeah. I would say somewhere in the middle, probably looking at like $10 a month for the average household. Yes, yep.
It would be basically like lock, if we went with the extension rate, we would lock in now.
That's correct.
Tomorrow.
Yes.
At that 0.6289.
Mhm. And then same thing, just wanted to call out, I'm sorry, I didn't say it in terms of the electric program, but anytime there is a market opportunity that might be lower than your current rate, I want to bring that to the township to say, hey, exactly. Yep, exactly right. So just to make sure that there's that opportunity to do so. You don't have to, your rate is secure, you don't have to disrupt anything, but want to make sure that you know it pertains to both electric and gas when that comes up.
What is that like? Do they have to give us some paperwork? Does it just happen? What does it look like? Do we have the opportunity to out again?
Sure. Yep. Per PUCO mandate, we have to send another letter. It will automatically happen if they do nothing, but if they don't want to participate, they would have to opt out. Now, those who have opted out previously wouldn't get a letter. They would remain opted out. Those who have their own supply agreement separate, they would remain and not get a letter. So it would just be those who are already participating to make them aware. And again, that's just regulation. We have to, for small business and small consumer protections, just have to let them know. You have a choice to opt out again. Here's your new price. And we could certainly put messaging in there to say it's more attractive than the previous rate. Yeah, this is a benefit. Yeah, exactly.
So you talked about less people doing gas. So you're like, I think a lot of us are suburban, so I have AEP, so I adopted electric. I'm in suburban, but I can't aggregate with suburban. It's just Columbia gas companies. So I don't know that people have gas or electric. It's just a different gas company. So, yeah.
Okay.
And then how long, you said we've had 250 or so that have opted out already. How long is that opt out? Sure, it's out.
Yeah, so I think we have just over another month left on that. Yep.
And then you didn't send letters, I think you already answered this, to those of us who are with another supplier. We didn't get letters.
That's right. Yep.
So if someone has another supplier, Archer was a better deal, they would basically have to do the legwork to figure that out and then switch.
Yep. And then the calls we've received on the Trade Bell side, the calls that Archer has received, walk them through that process. They're saying, yeah, contact your current supplier, cancel. Yep. And just making sure that we're continuing to follow up because, while we would love to be able to do that on their behalf, it has to come from the customer directly. But I do understand the pain point of sitting on hold with the utility or various suppliers. Not the funnest thing to do. So thanks to the patients for all the residents that do that, that go through that
We
process.
appreciate you guys taking
Sure.
those are
Happy to.
Yeah. So.
Sure.
So I was just looking at 5 years. So I logged in at APFP for 12 months and no should be. So easily switch back and forth, switch to. So right now, the township residents are paying $0.49.
That's correct. So that rate's going to start in December. I'm not sure because I'm newer to the team. I'm not sure when that was contracted. I'm assuming that was contracted at some point in the past, probably 6, 8, maybe even 10 months back. So the market, as we were just looking at on that, graph there, market was at a much different point in time. Now, what I was just saying about the blend and extend, even though the agreement has yet to start in December, I'd certainly work with Archer to see how we could lower that, beginning month 1 or month 2 of the contract. Sure.
The rates that you presented, what extension. My understanding is past, we've gone through the process, we'll look at the different suppliers and get it that we want to lock in. So how are we providing the rates that you're presenting today and are proposing these rates current supplier or thinking about doing another RFP, potentially looking at more competitive rates.
Sure. Yeah. So for today's purposes, I only worked with Archer because they said, hey, just please provide some indicative figures so we could talk about it at the township meeting today, understanding that nothing was going to be transacted. Happy to do an RFP process to look at, competitive bids for the extension. Now, that is a caveat of a blend and extend. It can only be done with the current supplier because they've already secured the entire contract. So if they're going to go out and secure more load, they can't unwind it without having something to replace it. So that is the one caveat there. But for extension, we can certainly open that up and get you a competitive bid process. So I think there's nothing keeping people from doing that. The same thing with our aggregation program. There's no termination penalty for doing so. If they want to come back at a later date, they certainly could. But like I said, I believe, without having the full history, I believe that the electric rate that was executed was probably some point in the past where the market was elevated. And I think the intention there was to make sure that the residents had a better offer than the upcoming price to compare, which was going to go from 6 cents to 12 cents and now down to 10. So while, the market's in a better place today, the option then was do nothing and have the residents certainly go to that higher 12-cent rate, or let's secure a price that's at least going to be better than that. I was talking about electric. I'm sorry. I thought that's the rate that you had talked about.
With the blend and extend, I think it's, at this point, we are
That's right.
locking electric.
Yeah. I say that.
Please, sorry, can you keep your microphone well down and the audio's not catching you?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's okay, thank you.
I'm actually, Columbia. Oh, wait, no, it is the They have gas?
No, they offer gas on a very limited basis. I've actually worked with AP Energy for 12 years. So they do offer some choice gas. I don't think they offer it on a residential basis. If they do, it's a very, very new offering over the past couple of
Yeah, I
months.
think that's actually. Yeah, I walked in with AP.
Well, then that must be
Okay, that's
yeah.
what you thought.
Yes.
Yes. So 51 cents for 12 months with no early termination. So my point is that right now, everyone's paying basically 33%. And we know this will go up, but they're paying or 50% more than they could get right now. So I was kind of hoping for maybe a better blend and extend rate. So, I mean, we don't have to decide it now, but those are my thoughts that I don't see a lot of incentive. Now, we don't know what the market is going to happen. It could end up higher than this. I mean, you don't have the crystal ball, as Scott would say, but if we were going to be making a decision sooner rather than waiting, I think there might be a better rate.
Yeah, well, like I said, certainly happy to go and do a competitive bid process to see what else is out there. A different, kind of apples and oranges. I'm not sure when that rate started with AEP Energy, and you said it's for 12 months. We're looking at a slightly different term where you're capturing more winter in there. So those tend to be higher price months, and that can skew the pricing a bit. I'm happy to also look at some other terms to see if, the convenience factor of having it expire with your electric is great. But if we can get a better price and not doing that, no reason for us to be hamstrung and looking at just that term. So
Something, I know things are gonna, this is when everyone's using gas and during winter months. So I think once some people pick up on the fact that they're paying so much when they could have got a lower rate, sometimes people but now it goes opposite way. I mean, we got really good rates, so okay.
So it sounds like if you could go ahead and do the RFP for
sure.
Would it?
Want to do that now?
Yeah, I think the time. We think we get better.
Well, let me ask the board, if we go the art route, and it's a lower rate today, then we'll consider entering into an extension at this point in time.
We're gonna get it through May of 25.
Situation, or contract, locked in with Archer.
Yes, through May.
And find out that it's more competitive, we would not be able to adopt a different supplier. We would just be able to use that as a negotiating point with Archer to get lower gas rate per plane.
So I think there's two things. If we go out and do a competitive bid process and look at extension pricing, so the term would start at the end of your current contract. And
Start in April.
that's right. Yep. And you could transact on that now. You don't have to wait until April to do so. So that could be with any supplier, could be with Archer or anyone else, depending on the favorability of the rate. If you wanted to do the blend and extend, that can only happen with the current supplier. Yep.
That's what I was gonna ask. Do we think there's better in November or there's better numbers? Because the spring is gonna really going out in February,
That's right.
right? So February to me seems colder
Yes.
and
I would tend to agree with you, especially while we have this kind of extended, nicer weather here before we're getting into February. And there's no harm in running the RFP and seeing what.
another one.
Exactly.
We don't like this here.
Exactly right.
So
Yep.
I would say that, right now.
Sure.
It sounds like, I don't know if you've got, at least looking at the apples
Mhm.
comparison.
Yes.
Pull from those suppliers.
We do not. And the reason behind that is they don't offer a sweeping aggregation rate to say, yes, everyone in your community can for sure have this. They would have to register on a one-by-one basis. So that's a lot of coordinating to get, 8,000 people to potentially do that. The aggregation price tends to be a little bit higher because you're taking that risk. We're saying, here's the rate, and we hope 80% or 70 or 60 participate, but we don't really know. And we hope they stay through the term, but they might leave. So there is that kind of risk premium built in a little bit. But really, there's nothing to stop residents from going directly to apples, or going back and forth, if at some point in time that rate is higher than the community aggregation
So
rate.
that's helpful for us to know. The one-to-one comparison what we can see on that.
Yeah.
That's right.
I didn't see.
Yeah. But it's got been thinking that it's maybe walking in.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Sure, of course. Thank you for having me. And we'll start that process of running an RFP, and then I can coordinate accordingly once we get that back. Would you like to plan to have that returned sometime like next week? It's good. I can send it to you before the holiday.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Then I'll have some indicative figures to you before the holiday, and then we can plan for a more formal response closer to December 6th to make sure that we can move forward if the board would like to. All right. Thank you all so much. Pleasure to meet you.
I just want to thank the citizens of Orange Township. So last week we had an election. A few of us, on the board were reelected for another term. We appreciate the honor of serving you, the privilege that entails. Thank you. I know all our elected representatives here, their doors are always open. My door is no exception. So if you ever want to talk about anything going on in the township, please reach out. We are here for you.
Thank you. I share perspectives as well. Thank you for your support. Thank you for voting and going to the polls and pretty high turnout this time. So thank everyone for doing their civic duty and yeah, thank you very much. Just a reminder, I believe there's today and tomorrow that Route 23 Connect. There's online meetings, Zoom of some sort, that are available for the residents. The in-person last one was yesterday. So pretty important for people to weigh in on that. Have some time. And just a reminder, as we're starting to see our holiday lights going up around the community, should you need to find some dead strings of lights, there is recycling at the library. So if you don't work at Orange Library. Oh yeah, speaking of that, we are doing again a holiday light fight that we did last year, where it's people who are already decorating their houses and want to be involved in the drive around thing. We can sign up through December 6th, which is our trustee meeting. If anybody wants to be a part of that, we know that we're not asking anybody to do anything they don't already do. You already really love decorating for the holidays and want people to drive by your house to join our light fight. Watch on that. Yes. Oh yeah, thanks. Also, December 3rd, which is before our next meeting, so thank you, Lisa, is our holiday event. So 4:30 to 6:30, it is at the shelter next to the pool at Park. Similar to the last couple of years' events, there will be free hot chocolate. This year we're adding coffee, homemade Christmas cookies that Lawrence French Church is donating. Santa Claus will be there. There'll be a big tree lighting. There's a train that goes around the pond. The Grinch is coming again. It's really fun character to interact with residents. So yeah, just another community event opportunity for us to get out and interact with each other, meet some additional neighbors and potential friends. So it's Sunday at 4:30 to 6:30. Hopefully it won't be quite so cold this next year.
Chief, just a reminder that during the holiday event, the fire department will be there again to collect toys for the people in need for Delaware. So we'll be there with the trailer to collect those toys. Unwrapped.
Toys.
Yes.
You want to come to the mic and give us your name and address?
Hi, John Greger, 6043 Trent Court. I just had a couple items I was looking for some guidance from the trustees on. I wasn't sure where in the agenda the right spot. Okay. So the first is the speed on Old State at 55 is just way too high in a residential district with kids around. It's a narrow road. It's lots of traffic. Makes no sense why it's 55. I didn't know who could address looking at that. I don't know if you guys are involved in that at all, but wanted to get some guidance. Okay. 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 Okay.
Again, I do know that that road will eventually be widened.
I'm aware of that. Actually, one thing that's gotten worse since the lights have gone in, the noise has gotten a lot worse because people take off to go 55 off that, and there's a lot of traffic on that road now. So, yeah, I live near Lewis Center in Old State, so we hear that. Yeah. So that was the first item, so thank you. Appreciate you bringing that up with the engineer.
Has it been?
Not sure if we've done that during our, so.
Okay, maybe we could give it back. We had a couple of them. Let's do the same person. But we started, I'm sorry, where did you say, we started out?
This is South Old State, yes. It's really all of Old South State, north of Orange Road.
Yeah.
You know, we have these, I go through neighborhoods like in Dublin and things that are divided highway 2 lanes, and those are 35 miles an hour. And then I get to my neighborhood and people are going 65 miles an hour on a 2-lane road.
Generally, what we do, sorry, it's really bad. What we do is just inquire with the county engineers. From a recent conversation, it sounds like submitting a REA for a county road doesn't necessarily get us the results we want. We just inquire with them on their traffic studies and the next time they have them scheduled. But we can ask and see where it goes though, for sure. Yep, no problem.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It seems to be south of they, I feel like going slow on purpose. Because it feels like you're going too fast, even for someone who doesn't necessarily drive more than speed. But I would think like 45 there, you know.
At least.
Yeah.
That's what it's become. Definitely. Right. Mhm. All right. Yeah. So I had a second item, and that is, I believe there's a noise ordinance in the township, but it excludes Ohio Revised Code 1.61, which is livestock. We, like 200 feet from my house, somebody has a fairly large-scale chicken operation. It's on a pre-existing property in Old State. So it's not a zoning issue, I don't believe. But they have multiple roosters that start crowing at 4 a.m. and they crow till late. So the chickens aren't as much the issue as the crowing. So it wakes us up at night because our bedroom's on that side of the house. So I didn't know if there was anything from a noise ordinance standpoint could be reviewed. The current noise ordinance, I don't think covers that issue. It's on Old State. It's right next to the church there. No, it's south of Lewis Center. It's right, it backs up to the school, right? It's next to Elm Creek Church of Christ.
Is it like a, or is it residential?
No, it's a residential house. It's a residential house. It got sold last summer and new people moved in. They actually bought the lot next to it as well. It was good because the landscaping company moved out. They were really noisy, but they've gone in and they have 2 like tall, big buildings, each housing chickens, and they have chicken runs the length of the property, and they're really noisy. Yes. Yes.
If it's like FR1 residential, I think we can't really limit the farm activities that correct, but we don't know for sure. We can check. Can
Back to it, and then I'll have the answer today.
Okay.
It is on site.
Yeah, can we just make sure, because I mean, there's certain, if you are FR1, they're allowed to engage in certain protected activities as farmland. You have to protect farmers, don't like farmers markets.
And that's the case here, I think. I think the zoning, I think they're within zoning, and I think they're also within the current noise policy as well. So. Yes.
By law, I think farmland is protected.
Okay. It's 1.61. It excludes its livestock is what it.
So
No, the township noise ordinance, lists, what can and can't be done via noise. And then it says it excludes anything that's part of Ohio Revised Code 1.61, which is raising livestock. So it's an exclusion to the noise.
So if that's correct. Yeah, but
Yeah, I know some cities and things have restrictions on not chickens, but on roosters. The roosters are the issue. The chickens aren't an issue. Yeah, okay. No, it's on the same side.
It could be a zoning violation. It could be. That's
Just north of the church, yes. Okay, that was it. Thank you very much.
Yes. That was a grant we normally apply for. We learned there is a better great opportunity for this project. So we don't need that agenda item there. And then fiscal, we are doing the liquor license, the first one at this warrant for C. For Inspire, there's a consent item, it's a done and out purchase order for points. With, oh, the insurance for the points. Stop it. Okay. Did we have any questions on the consent items? Or previous meetings? I make a motion to approve resolution 23-284, approving the electronic record of the proceedings from the regular trustee meeting of November 1st, 2023. And resolution 23-285, approving purchase orders, then and now purchase orders, and blanket purchase orders as listed.
Mr. Ringgold?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp? Yes. Mrs. Faust?
Good afternoon, trustees. For our zoning hearings and meetings report, we did have a zoning commission meeting scheduled for last night, November 14th. We ended up not having a quorum for that meeting. So we will look to schedule another special meeting next week so that we can get our contract amendment with ZoneCo, who's our zoning consultant, approved through the zoning commission. Correct. Yeah. We do have a public hearing following the conclusion of this regular trustee meeting at 5:30 p.m. this evening for the rezoning application ZON-23-03 for the proposed Orange Cove subdivision. And we have Board of Zoning Appeals meeting scheduled for tomorrow at 6 p.m. here in this room. There are 4 cases on that agenda. The first is an area variance for property owned by the school district on Graphics Way to allow for fewer parking spaces than is required for their academy building. There is a number of variances for signage for the CME Credit Union, which is under construction on Artesian Run, both for wall signage and a proposed monument sign. There is a variance and conditional use application for a proposed McDonald's, also on Artesian Run. They are seeking variance for a monument sign, as well as a variance to have a flat roof instead of a pitched roof, as is required by code. And then we also have proposed Chick-fil-A, which is seeking a number of variances, one setback variance for a proposed canopy structure, as well as variances for signage and lot coverage.
Chick-fil-A, where's that?
So they are proposing to essentially build in the parking lot of the Giant Eagle at 55 Meadow Market. And then we do have one application in so far for our Board of Zoning Appeals meeting in December, scheduled for December 14th, to allow for a pool to encroach into the 35-foot rear yard setback on Macomber Loop.
Speak. Yeah, we're
So they're required, even though they're a government entity, to apply for a variance. What if
Correct.
then it's denied?
Correct.
So they're expanding their that building houses a teacher academy and service stands. And they're like a special needs program.
So it's built as an office building, so it doesn't necessarily have facilities, especially for students, that kind of stuff. So that's the reason for the expansion of the building, expand the building, take it as a park. So there is other parking around on school district property. So I was like, where are your kiddos going to park? They're taking the student parking. So it's necessary for teachers to park. Kids would still get to the park. So they initially wanted to purchase some of the parking lots that's just east, maybe that's not south,
yeah.
but that is county. So they didn't want to offer up any of that space.
When's the last time that we updated our parking requirements in the code? Have we ever done that?
And then I guess we haven't made any substantial changes to the code since early 90s.
Yeah, I don't know if we're looking at that, but I kind of feel like our parking requirements are excessive. Sometimes you end up with a sea of parking.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit too off topic, but especially in like industrial areas require it's the excessive amount for especially like manufacturing company has. And
Yeah, exactly. Some of it could, and it just ends up being a sea of asphalt. That's just.
Operations.
The operations agenda today is renewal of the annual lease of the EMS building on 3rd Street. In the verbiage of this, there's no substantial changes with the exception of extending the lease to a 14-month window this time around since it was supposed to renew in late October. So to make it match up with the calendar, we added 2 months to it. And then there is error in the total on that. Instead of $8,640 for a 12-month lease, it would actually go to $10,080 in the 14-month lease. It would take us through the end of 24. Other than that, there's no other changes to the lease.
Sorry.
it'll be
But it's great. Make a motion to approve resolution 23-286, authorizing execution of the agreement between the Board of Township Trustees of Orange Township and the Board of County Commissioners of Delaware County for a portion of 6226 3rd Street, Willis Center, Ohio, to permit the use of the facility to provide emergency medical services.
Second.
Mr. Ringgold,
Yes.
Ms. Knapp, Mrs. Fouts.
Yes.
Just for the record, I know we changed the price, but I'll have to clean up the language to, but it's a 14 months, so I'll.
Okay.
I'm fired. Thanking the community, of course, for their recent their support, their continued support, and passage of our levy. The department as a whole, I speak for everybody over there, are grateful with, of course, our scope of practice training and requirements increasing dramatically with the services that we've been trying to provide the community growing. This will help us tremendously to continue our current, but also into the future and start preparing for the continued growth of our community. So we thank you very much for the support. I'd like to challenge that our residents do stay in contact with the department. One thing I did find out from many of the phone calls I yielded and also emails, there's a lot of miscommunication and assumptions out there that when people called, people thought things for a couple of years, and when I talked to them, I found it wasn't true. They said, well, I wish I would have known that a couple of years ago. So please, if you have questions, reach out to us. We're happy to answer questions and try to any concerns and fix those. So, but we do appreciate the support. And also, I'm here tonight to request accept a donation from the Slate Creek condominiums. They were gracious and gave us 9 Kroger cards for a total of $800. And then I'm going to have I'll read this from the residents of Slate Creek condominiums would like to show our gratitude and support for our first responders at Station 361 by providing gift cards to Kroger's. We hope the brave men and women can have some special meals during the Thanksgiving, Christmas holidays. We understand they leave their family and friends on those special holidays to be available to assist in any emergency that might occur during those days. We feel a certain sense of security having them so close and always ready when they are needed. Thank you is not enough. Please enjoy this small token of appreciation from a very proud and grateful neighborhood. And I would like to thank the residents of Slate Creek for the gracious gift.
Very much. We also thank them. Well, thank our firefighters. Like I said, when you're giving up time, I would assume that they're probably busy days for the year. So we appreciate what you guys give up for us. Anything else? Fire. And I second the community. Thank you for passing the fire levy, and just a reminder to start the conversation now that there should be another levy coming next year in November as well, but it would be renewable, so it's no additional cost to than what we're already paying. So, okay. I make a motion to approve resolution 23-287, acknowledge and accept donation.
Second. Mr. Ringgold?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp? Yes. Mrs. Faust?
Yes.
All right. First item is the liquor license for Hammer and Nails. Darner Enterprises doing business with Hammer and Nails LLC. We've already approved, I know, at least one other one. Hammer and Nails for men's grooming. So this is another location. Locations over by Kroger's. So that is before you as a consensus item on whether or not to request or for a hearing or not. The next item is October financials, and our total ending cash balance as of October 31 was $29,860 and $806. Oh my God, I'm trying to sing it. $29,860,001. And our year-to-date revenue is $19,324,409, followed by expenses of $16,206,900. The big, I added this something a little bit differently, just kind of trying to play around with this till we kind of figure out a good mix of relevant information as far as reporting. So I went ahead and added the current reserve for encumbrance. So basically, that's what we have outstanding on POs still for the rest of the year. So it kind of gives you, we could spend another $7.4 million by the end of the year. I will tell you, probably in the next 30 days, I know I have somewhere between $2 and $3 million-ish in roads invoices. Between Bell Canyon was it about $1.5 million for Bell Canyon, month outstanding $1.4 million for Bell Canyon, and then our road surfacing for who is that vendor? Shelley, thank you. I knew beginning with an S. Shelley, their PO is still outstanding, so we haven't spent that money. So I'm expecting a bill from them that usually comes in towards the end. So there'll be a couple big expenses here to follow, as well as our accrual balance cash outs that happen at the end of the year also. So we'll see definitely a hit to expenses over the next remaining 46 days of the year. Any questions on that? Okay. And then last but not least, appropriation. So we did something different here too. So normally all we present, and I looked at other townships and all they present is this kind of one-liner that says you guys are approving appropriations in the amount of blah. In this case, 24 million of change. What I wanted to do this year is just add a little more transparency and show what we actually submit. Added Exhibit A here. This is actually what we submit to Delaware County. So whenever we make changes to any of these categories, we have to submit the change to the county. But I just wanted to kind of
show a little bit more detail about kind of where that, where the spend is as far as our appropriations for 24. So that's what I've got.
Did we have any questions of the 24? Opportunity to sit down, shall I just craft about the questions, that's stuff that I had.
So they're all answered.
So thank you thanks for your feedback. And is this where the cameras are in there? So I had some concerns about the quad safety cameras. So you're proposing 4 safety cameras?
Yes,
Or at a cost of $20,000?
It could be. It's unknown. We just, all we did was just have some money into appropriate in the case.
Total 20, right? So 5 each.
We're not sure of the cost just yet, but we just appropriated money for it.
A max of
4.
Not the 4 cameras. I mean, just a max of $20,000.
$20,000.
We appropriated $20,000 if the board chooses to do it for box safety. And I don't know the costs.
Right.
So we would make that decision.
Yes, yeah, it would be a contract. So it would be something.
Yeah, what is the cost? What is the cost per month?
So it's an annual fee, to my understanding, but we're having a conversation with the county sheriff, but we don't know the exact cost at this time.
So what is that? We can probably talk about this at some point, but what is the reason that these block safety cameras are being proposed? Because they're basically license plate readers. What is the purpose behind it?
My understanding is that I don't know a ton about it, and we could attend training Tuesday, where they're going to give us some additional information. So I'm excited to bring that back.
Who's giving that training? Block?
I believe it's block safety that's doing a demonstration.
So you have to be aware that we obviously marketing. That way marketing, yes.
So yes, my understanding is that I think I'm simply speaking of auto break-ins and that. So,
So how would this camera prevent auto?
that I don't know, that's why I'm going to attend this.
Yeah.
So, I'm open to putting money in the budget for it and learning additional, I'm not saying that I'm okay with us spending it yet. I can do it, but I'm okay with putting some money in the budget, allocating it for that, and then just getting for it, and maybe it's such a fair amount. What?
For me, the line item's really budgeting for additional safety features that I think we've seen a rise, especially along the southern end of Township. And we want to try and get ahead of that in my mind, put in potential safety devices or safety mitigation features that might involve new partnerships with the county sheriff's office, but really just to make sure that our residents feel secure in their public places such as parks, or that if there is crime that's going to be coming from outside our township and coming into the township, that we can try and catch those perpetrators and make sure that they're prosecuted according to the law. That way, people who might be committing crime in the township who live outside the township know that if they're going to commit crime, please don't do it in Orange Township.
Right. So I'm extremely, and we can discuss it when we get to that, but I'm extremely opposed to that. I think it's government overreach. We're a township. I feel like we're supposed to have limited government. So when I looked in these cameras, they take a photo of not only the license plate, the back of the car, stickers, rubber stickers, all that kind of stuff. And allegedly it's only accessible by, who we designate, which would be the sheriff's office. But apparently it's subject to subpoenas. If someone were getting a divorce and wanted to subpoena, now there's a limited retention period, but it could be subpoenaed if a government agency has it, which, I'm not always a fan of the ACLU except for on certain concepts of individual freedoms not being tracked, being a surveillance state. And sometimes what governments do is they put measures into place and they think they're going to actually help, or it looks good, but in reality, it's just making people feel better. And I'm very concerned about that because apparently they work. I did a lot of research. They do work in places with, huge amounts of crime with murders, people drive around with multiple felony warrants. The thing that these cameras do is all they do is they send the data to the police department. It matches up for felonies, and stolen cars and missing people. That's it. It doesn't serve as any kind of deterrent or monitoring system for like just petty theft. It doesn't send an alert that will help with that. You would probably need, I don't know what for that, but this is more for heavy duty crime. So it would work better like if or City of Columbus, or when I look these places up, it's always places that have huge amounts of drug dealers who've been convicted, but someone has a stolen car, things like that. And it won't, I don't think this will stop break-ins to cars. My car was broken into. It would not stop that. It would help probably track the person unless they had an existing warrant. So like I said, I'm open to more discussion. One thing that I did get this crime stats from the sheriff's office, including the current ones, and actually, she just sent these to me a couple hours ago. But year to date, things actually, let's see here, just got this, like for example, like robberies, there were 8 robberies in 2020. There've been 6 year to date. There have been a lot, unfortunately, a lot more suicide attempts. Those have gone up substantially. Some harassment and threats, things like that. But as far as like theft has gone up from like 265 to 330. That includes a retail, vehicle, credit card. Theft from vehicle went from 51 in 2020 to 56 last year, and then or 56 in 2021 and 64 in 2022. And so far, it's only actually 44 here. So it's kind of like certain situations that came up in the last few years where you draw more attention to something, and there's an alert that goes out, and everyone's worried and stressed out because they hear about it. But if you actually look at the stats, we're actually a pretty safe community. See, there's been an increase in some sex offenses, I see, which again, this would not assist in that. A decrease in animal calls, which is good. Let's see, substantial decrease in robberies that went from 8 in 2020 to 6 in 2021 to 3 in 2022. And only 6 this year so far. So that's probably on par. Missing person was 455, and then right now it's 2. So if we're looking for missing people, that's actually decreased. Things like fights, maybe it went from 6 to 9. Shooting and stabbing did increase dramatically from 0 to 2. Let's see, we have a person with knife has decreased from 2 to 0. So things like that, if you actually look at the amount of crime, I don't know if this warrants this. I believe this would be an overreaction. See, theft from vehicle, that's gone up slightly, but not as much as you would think. Identity theft has gone down. Traffic stops gone up slightly. So based on these statistics, and now burglary and breaking and entering went from 28 to 16 to 18 to 21. So it's lower than it was in 2020. So just along these lines, I don't think it would warrant the invasion of privacy. I don't think it would help anyone feel better. Our overall incidents, you can see here, substantially. And actually, even though I do feel things got a little crazy in 2021, that's when I was feeling it with all the riots and things. But I do feel, and even overall the county hasn't really, there's been some more drug activity, but again, you have to be a felon. So for these reasons, I feel like it would be an overreach. But what I would like to see is maybe the sheriff, maybe hire one additional deputy that just patrols the whole county. Because I never see any cops on my street, just driving by, making your presence known. I think making your presence known that there's a cop nearby or could maybe stop by any time could be a substantial deterrent. and it's a little bit less intrusive and it's good for the community. So those are my thoughts on, I'm okay with leaving in there, but I'm 120% opposed based on my research. So
No, and I appreciate you doing the research. Like I said, I'm open to having money in the budget and
yeah,
continuing discussions.
Or you could use it for something else, too,
Yeah.
right? Right.
Yeah, we
That
can
didn't
always
work out.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's just thank Ms. Crawford.
Not come back and report.
yeah.
The sales presentation from the manufacturer.
So tell me what hardship is based on small communities.
Sheriff's perspective, what I heard was that they are interested in putting this in countywide to some extent. So I would hear Sheriff Officer, whoever designee is to, speak to us from that perspective as well.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah. Okay, any other preparations? Nope. Awesome. Okay, then make a motion to approve resolution 23.
Wait, let's have consensus first, please.
Yes. It'd be good to not hold hearing for the first license for cameramen.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, I make a motion to approve resolution 23-288, approval of 2024 permanent appropriations.
Second.
Mr. Ringel,
Yes.
Ms. Knapp, Mrs. Bass.
Yes. Okay. It's funny, our administration.
All right, the first two items is with Eric regarding our new senior zoning officer, Eric Gayansky. Because he has previous township experience, we wanted to transfer his sick leave and also recognize him for his prior years of service. So those are the first two resolutions in front of you. And then the last one is, when I read all these names. So recognizing November birthdays and November employee anniversaries. So we have our trustees. Mike Ringgold's birthday was November 5th. So happy birthday to you. Firefighter Collins, November 9th, happy birthday. These are birthdays continuing. Firefighter Townsley, November 9th. Firefighter Clark, Kyle Clark, so there's two Clarks, November 15th. Firefighter Captain Sapp, November 19th. Firefighter Birchfield, November 21st. Firefighter Captain Hodges, November 23rd. And Firefighter Chavalia, November 26th. Anniversaries, our Assistant Parks Manager Greg Butts is 17 years on November 22nd. Firefighter Roach, 22 years on November 7th. One of our trustees just hit her 23 years total amount of years of service. So congratulations. I thought I would do the total. Is that okay?
That's good.
Okay, that's what I figured. Firefighter Birchfield, 24 years on November 3rd. Firefighter Lieutenant Martin, 24 years on November 3rd. And Firefighter Captain Miller, 24 years on November 3rd. Thank you. Do we have any questions?
I make a motion to approve resolution 23-289, accepting transfer of 8.22 hours of sick leave to the credit of senior zoning officer Eric Gayansky. Second.
Mr. Ringel,
Yes.
Ms. Knapp, Mrs. Bass.
Yes. I make a motion to approve resolution 23-290, recognizing prior full-time Ohio Township service of Eric Gayansky for the purpose of calculating longevity pay.
Mr. Ringel,
Yes.
Ms. Knapp, Mrs. Bass.
I don't have any other business.
Anybody else? We have an executive session. I make a motion to approve resolution 23-291, enter into executive session pursuant to revised codes 121.22 G4 to review negotiations or bargaining sessions with public employees concerning their compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment.
Second?
Ms. Knapp,
Yes?
Mr. Ringel,
Yes.
Mrs. Bass.
Invited to attend are the trustees. Say yes. Yeah. Invited to attend are the trustees, Fiscal Officer Kraft, Ms. Bonnie, Orange Township Legal Counsel.
We don't have legal
No
counsel
counsel.
for this one.
Silas Bowers and Mike. We shall return. I'll take the checks.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, you're good to go? Okay. I make a motion to approve resolution 23-292, return to regular session.
Mr. Ringgold?
Yes.
Ms. Nat?
Yes.
Mrs. Faust?
Yes. I make a motion to approve resolution 23-293, meeting adjourned.
Second.
Mr. Ringgold?
Yes.
Ms. Nat?
Yes.
Mrs. Faust?
Yes, meeting adjourned.